Last one, we're almost done. We're talking communication today, and so it should be super easy. All right? You guys know why we're here. We want to make disciples well. We want to carry out the Great Commission. We want to exercise the mission of the church. We want to do it well. Whoa!
Can I have a minute?
Wait. Hello, Travis.
Hi, everybody.
Oh, Jen.
I'm sorry.
The third one I should go to. So I love you guys.
This man, Coach.
Oh. Wait.
Take it to the world, John. Take it to the world.
I will, Coach. Good to see you.
Same here, though. Give my love to your family.
I will. I absolutely will. I absolutely will.
I have to see you before you leave.
Thank you. Thank you for stopping in. Tammy will be so happy.
Love you guys. Thank you.
Have a good day. How are you?
You have to leave. You still your wife.
No, that.
Sit, get a plate.
I gotta work.
I love you, Coach.
I love you, buddy. Give Carolina some fire, baby.
I will. I will. I love you, Coach.
God bless you guys. Thank you.
Yo, Coach Kevin.
Love you, brother.
Shoot. Now I'm all off track. You guys know why we're here. You know what we're trying to do. Let me get this thing going. We want to be biblically critical thinkers, okay? And so a part of that is being really practical as well, all right? And so we are in the practical phase. We've been through theology and doctrine. We've been through presentation of a good gospel word, and now we're really just focusing on the practical parts of doing ministry. And so we're using Mike's book as a guide, Streamlined, as a guide to try to look at church systems, to try to look at organizational systems in a way that will help us to be effective, to get over our own unique things that can make things hard. All right, and so you can see the schedule. This is it. We are all but done. In the last seven modules, we've already kind of touched on it. We understand that theology leads to doctrine. That doctrine is meant to rebut error. That when we're interacting with other believers, the body of Christ is super wide, and so we want to be able to disagree well, but while remembering that it is all about the gospel. And so fundamentally, if we agree on the gospel, then we agree on what is important. And the other pieces are wonderful conversations for us to grow as believers and to come to understand the word more. Planning lets us get to our mission. And so if we plan well, we're able to execute our mission well. If we don't plan well, we will struggle with our mission, inevitably, because if for no other reason, then there will be people engaging with the mission that don't fully understand it. If we have a well-orbed plan, then I can communicate that plan to other people in a way that will be useful to them. All right? And bottom line leadership is resource management. We sort of chuckled over it last week. We just did a tithe message moments ago. We treat each one of those dollars with respect. Likewise, as leaders, we ought to treat the other resources that people pour into the ministry with equal respect. We would run somebody out of here for stealing or wasting tithe dollars. I think that if we approach people's time and talents with the same respect, I think that we will universally be more successful in carrying out our mission. All right, the fundamentals of the Streamlined book is that health is hard. Organizations, groups of people don't naturally blunder into healthy relationships. Think about your marriages. Think about your friendships. All of these things take work, right? All of these things take some effort to make them work out well. We've probably all in our relationships found ourselves at cross purposes because we didn't communicate things well. We didn't necessarily I didn't come into my relationship with Tammy with like a strategy to be a good married couple. We have subsequently developed a strategy to remain healthy and remain married. All right. There is human terrain. Our unique attributes make organizations hard. Our unique proclivities, our unique baggages, our idiosyncrasies can make organizations hard. And so we have to respect the human terrain, both among each other as leaders, but really among our volunteers that are looking to us for leadership, as well as the general congregation. Each one of those people has a perspective, and if we can see that, if we can understand that, maybe we can do less of the things that just make us happy, thinking more about who am I here to serve. It's not like the things that we do have got to be to serve the people that we are meant to minister to, thus carrying out the mission. All right. Good systems don't naturally happen in church. Just because we're all believers doesn't mean that that we're going to function. That we're going to function. We just can't put the Christian rubber stamp on it and expect it to work perfectly. Good systems will help us solve our problems. If our internal system works well, then we can get in front of problems before they happen. Good systems are directly related to our success. If we have a good functional plan and good communication and good leadership, it's easier for us to carry out the mission, because at the end of the day, it's all about the mission of making disciples. And so all of our planning is about making disciples. It's not planning to plan. It's not leadership to have authority. It is structure to help us teach the gospel. And that's really what everything we do, every meeting, every class, every sermon, every Bible study really is about the gospel. Good systems lead to better decisions. If we have in the Marines we call it an SOP, a standard operating procedure. If we have an agreed upon this is how we do things, that doesn't mean that we can never deviate, but we deviate for reasons, right? When the reason makes sense, the deviation makes sense. When we don't have a standard procedure, heck, man, I don't know what we're doing this morning. What do we want to do for church today? We've got an SOP. We talk it for every heart prep, right? SOPs exist within the organization. I think that if we think about them a little bit more and recognize them for what they are, then we can teach it as a culture a little bit, and we can make sure that everybody's tracking on the same page. It saves money, right? We can buy our way out of problems, or we can work our way out of problems. If my answer is going to be to work our way out of problems, then I need time to be able to execute that work. Otherwise, we're looking at buying our way out of our problems, right? And so that goes back to that discussion. Do we want to blow through money to solve problems, or do we want to carefully use time and talent to solve problems? I think that it's a balance. There's a time to spend money. There's a time to use time and talent. I have to plan, and I have to lead if I'm going to use time and talent. Our biggest problems are fixed for free, because our biggest problems are among the human terrain amongst us. And so we can fix those with good communication, with good conversation, with good relationships, and both easy and hard conversations, right? The preserve is really easy. The achieve and the avoid and the pa'a is a lot harder to get to, right? We can pat each other on the back and say what a great job we're doing, but then talking about the parts where we're struggling can be very, very difficult. If an organization is a group of people, then what I pose to you is that organizations are just gatherings of people. You can't get a bottle of Legacy Christian Church, right? Legacy Christian Church is us as a group of people. And so what that means is that Legacy Christian Church's problems are people problems, right? And so when we're encountering these problems, we're encountering things that people do and think and say. And so figuring out how to grapple with those things in a loving and a respect, we are able to say, David, I disagree with you. I disagree with this thing, but still walk away from it with a positive relationship. Or we could encounter it in a way where, like, yeah, we're never going to be able to serve together again over these words that were spoken, right? Both of those things could happen. I think that if we lead well, we can navigate our way around our biggest problems simply through relationship. All right, the main three parts of the book: planning, leading, and communicating. And we're on to communicating today. I think that we could probably talk communication without any of Mr. Lukaszewski's points. Fundamentally, we have a communication rhythm here. We know the routine and the schedule for communication. All right, you can see the points on the board, and I can talk through them if you like. But fundamentally, what I guess what I would highlight is the importance of making sure that we're communicating the right thing to the right people. We know the rhythm that we communicate through. I would challenge us to think of our communication a little bit wider. if we use our calendar well, right? So we started this thing off with planning, and the big drive behind the planning portion of the discussion was about scheduling master calendars that track the stuff that we're going to do over the course of the year, right? If that's just an exercise in building a calendar, then probably the people who are in the office will gain from it. The people who see it routinely will gain from it. But the rest of the group, if you don't, I don't spend a whole lot of time back in the office, so a calendar back in the office may not really instruct me that much, right? And it certainly isn't particularly useful when I'm at home planning a thing, right? And so I think that's why it's important to have the mirrored digital calendar that everybody can access. But beyond that, I would challenge us to consider that calendar as a part of our communication, right? If I only communicate stuff and if I only receive information in the meeting, if my only source of information is the stuff that gets said to me in a meeting, whether in person or online, then things are going to be missed. And so what I'm getting at is I think that as leaders, I think that I would encourage us, I would challenge us to broaden how we communicate. We can use things like mass emails, which we do almost at least twice a month, right? We all receive mass emails reminding about staff meetings, pastors meetings, council meetings, right? Those mass emails come out. I think that that rhythm can remind us of some things that we need to talk about tonight, right? Or could even remind us what we need to talk about next week, right? So lead time gives us prep time, right? Talking about the rule of thirds. If I've got 3 weeks until the next pastors meeting, and there's some stuff that I need to get done, if I'm cued into we're addressing this material in 3 weeks in the meeting, then 2 weeks out, I can be, if I've been briefed on it, if I know that we're going to be addressing this topic, then I can be prepared for it. So I'm not like, shoot. So in the meeting, reporting like, yeah, I totally need to work on that. Well, that's less good than this is the progress that we've put together on this thing, right? I guess what I'm getting at is if assignments are going out during the meeting, then it's very difficult to get to what is the product of those assignments. And so if we can communicate assignments through calendar and through email, and then discuss the products of that work in meetings, then the meeting becomes more fruitful, right? That's the hope. Leaders gatherings, announcements, accelerate helpful emails, yeah, hopefully. Donors. Something that we've discussed internally is the idea of communicating. So most of us give charitably, right? I presume all of us give. Well, all of us. You're all here, so you are giving at least of your time at this very moment. Understanding where the resources are going is something that Luka Zuski recommends. In part, it's something that all charitable organizations do. You've got to report where did the money go, but I think that it also helps people understand what is happening with their tithe money. So that communication to donors to let them know this is the work, this is the plan, this is the strategy. This is all stuff that we could probably add to our recipe to frame to our recipe here to frame out what we're doing better. I don't have a perfect solution for it right now. This is more a submission for discussion that I'm sort of putting out to the group. Think about I don't know, at the end of the, so I give money to a retirement fund, all right? And I don't look at it at all during the year. It comes out of my check automatically. I can look on my pay stub and see that it was taken out, but I have no concept of what's in it. Come around tax time, I get a statement from them, and they tell me the health of my account and what percentage it's earned and so forth. That's helpful to me. I'm curious about it. I'm not going to stop. You know what I mean? Like that percentage is not enough. I will not give any more money into this retirement fund. I'm curious about it. It gives me the warm and fuzzy, and it lets me know that this money is doing something, depending on the year in the stock market, I guess. Some facet of answering back might be useful to folks out there. I think a part that I really would love to engage in dialogue with the group is our structure for follow-ups. So I would submit to you that there is something, I don't think it's perfectly linear, but I think that there are steps along a believer's life. And so among faith organizations, a lot of times they'll describe it as next steps, right? So there are probably more. I'm not suggesting this as the inclusive list, but there's probably something like some initial discipleship, curiosity, somebody winds up coming to a church thing, right? And then somewhere along the line, they wind up giving their life to Christ. That's probably pretty early on. And then somewhere along the line, then there's probably some more discipleship. And then somewhere along the line, they probably want to get baptized, right? And then there's probably some more discipleship. And then they're probably getting into, volunteerism and these sorts of things. And some of that stuff may be in different orders. Then that's why I say I don't think it's perfectly linear. People may volunteer before they're saved. They may man, there's something going on here, and I want to. So my point is not that it's linear, but there are steps that people take along their Christian walk, and there may be some looping back and some and then so I don't mean to pitch it as linear, but what I do mean to engage is that these steps. I mean, I think we all see these steps, and so communicating well how people might take those steps is probably an important part of church ministry. And so wherever you are at in the church ministry, understanding the steps and without being so fixed on them that it's like, well, you got to get baptized before you can do that. But I mean, maybe it'd be good for them to get baptized. I agree that people should get baptized. But do they need to be baptized before they could greet at the door? I don't know that. I don't see it in the Bible. And so I don't want us to think about it linearly, but I do want us to be able to think as leaders, like, what are those opportunities for people to take next steps? How do we communicate those things to people? And how do we follow up with those people so that they can do it, right? Imagine if somebody, Victoria, I think is the young woman's name, who's sitting back in the corner today. Imagine if she wants to get baptized. She's heard about it. She knows about it. How would we actually today sign her up to get baptized? I don't have 100%. I could probably come up with something on the fly. If she's like, "Hey, John, can I get baptized?" I could probably put something together on the fly. But do we have a plan for how that works? Or if she said, "John, I'd really like to volunteer. Where can I sign up to volunteer?" I don't know if I have a great answer for her today. And so I think that's something that that's something that we might consider within our communication structure. What works? So again, just designing something, you log into this app and do this thing. Well, if that doesn't work for Legacy Christian, then it's not a good system, right? I can like it, David can like it, Uwe might like it, but if it doesn't work for the organization, then it's not a good system. And so how do we work through that? How do we sort through that? I think it's a point for discussion. Mission and values are critical. So we give the mission. We talk values often. I think that communicating those things are an important part of the ongoing, the ongoing process within the church. Every day, every Sunday when we've started this class, I've tried to make a clear connection at the beginning between the Great Commission, the mission of Legacy Christian, and what I'm getting ready to teach. All right. In part, it's good practice. In part, it's important for all of us to know, okay, so why are we doing this? What is this about? Can we understand how even this conversation right now relates to sharing the gospel? If we can't, then either maybe it's not a good product, or maybe I didn't do a good job of communicating it. But people have to understand why we do what we do. We talked early on about the differences between our routines and, biblically dictated functions of the church, right? There are routines we do here at Legacy Christian, and being able to communicate, well, why do we do it? Why are we using these little communion cups? I heard about wine, and you're supposed to break bread. We had COVID last year, and so I can't just hand you with my dirty hands, hand you a bunch of bread. It's not that world anymore. So we got these single serve things. I don't know what kind of juice it is. It tastes a little weird to me. I don't know. It tastes nothing like wine. It might have sat in the sun. I'm hating, I'm teasing, but really the point is, why do we do that? Well, we do that because there's there's some practical reason right now to do it that way. I've been in a church service where there was one loaf and everybody pulled a piece of bread off of the thing. That seems weird to me right now. It just seems. I don't know if you guys have seen my kids' hands. I don't want them touching my bread. Why do we do the stuff that we do? Communicating the mission and the vision. If the stuff that we're doing is well connected to the mission and the vision of the church, then it's really easy to connect these lines. If the stuff that we're doing is clearly connected to the gospel, then it's really easy for us to paint these lines. I would say that if we're having a hard time connecting the mission and the vision to the thing that we're doing, then maybe that's an indicator to us. Have we deviated? Are we just doing stuff now? Have we deviated from the mission? Have we deviated from the Great Commission? Are we just doing stuff to do stuff? If it's not well connected, then people are going to have a hard time connecting to it and finding it reasonable and useful. And then the bottom line, his big parting shot in the book is that great systems won't make everything perfect. I think that it's really easy, and I've seen it in the Marine Corps time and time again, where a great system will get built by certain people, by a group of leadership, and then over time, it's like all these systems are in place, and then over time, people move on, and nobody remembers why did we start doing it this way, and then there's this sort of deconstruction of well, that's stupid, right? I think we use the health checks at the front door, right? In another year, maybe that'll seem ridiculous, right? But if everybody has moved on and Jen has handed it off to somebody else and she's leading a church over on the other side somewhere, and but we're still doing the health checks at the door, somebody will come and look at the system and this doesn't make any sense. And then they're in this conundrum of, do they try to fix the system or do they just go on to somewhere that makes more sense? So what I'm getting at is, and what I think he gets at is, designing great systems doesn't mean that we just then sort of press the cruise control and let it roll. I think that we have to continue to be biblically critical thinkers. I think that even after designing a beautifully crafted system that works flawlessly next Sunday, the following Sunday, we've still got to look at it biblically critically. We've still got to say, is it working? Do we need to tweak it? The point is to create a standard operating procedure that we can plan from, that we can communicate from, that we can lead from, so that we can get the word out and do the thing that we're called to do here. All right. And so that's I mean, honestly, that really is the summary of the last section within this book. We know how we communicate. Do we communicate well? I think that's where I'd like to start the conversation today. For the remainder of the time, I would really just like to engage you guys in a conversation. Pastor Roz and I had some great dialogue this past week over a desire for conversation, to challenge some of these, to work on some of these ideas. And so I would ask you all, could we talk about communication? Could we start at communication today and share some ideas on where we are, what's working and what isn't, and where we think we might want to go? Is that enough of a prompt for conversation? All right, who's got some? It's weird, right? But it's as weird as we make it be, right? It's as weird as we make it be. Where are we at right now on communication?
Barely.
I'm sorry?
Barely.
Barely?
Like I think, because I think a lot of times we don't have a gathering point, or there's not a mass email that will tell us the communication, what we're all talking about. So sometimes there's talk here, and we don't know. We just hear through the grapevine, we just hear about through the grapevine. So we don't know how to get in that conversation because we just heard it from the grapevine. You know, versus if we all came together like that staff meeting and said, hey, we're doing this thing on April 2nd. I want everybody together. And then we're all on the same page. At least where that conversation is opened up. We all heard that we're having this 9/11 thing, you know. But I think we're just hearing bits and pieces of stuff. So that's why it's kind of hard for that communication to get along because now that it's already passed, and now I feel like I got to catch up somewhere. Like, okay, I got to do it past it. Okay, I got to do it this week, you know.
Yeah. I think bad communication leads to meetings after meetings.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes, like chasing.
Right?
Yeah.
Auntie Norma, you?
I think leaders need to lead. Okay? Leaders of each group, heads of each group need to lead their group, or if we have groups, need to teach their groups whatever what we're learning from you. Need to wash it down to the next and the next and the next, so that you have new leaders, growing new leaders all the time with the same communication, with the same thoughts, with the same plans, God's plans,
Right?
of course, right? And then the whole thing, follow-ups and announcements and celebration, all of that should come from the heads of each leader. So the leaders need to be well trained.
Yeah.
And then the communication can go out. I mean, the pastor can give a notice just to the leader, a small group of leaders, and then yes, and then the leaders follow up and so on and so like that. Leaders need to be well informed.
What could we do to help that be more? So I infer from your statement that you don't see that as a reality, and so I would ask you, what could we do to make that more of a reality? What steps do we take to get there?
Create a system. Systematic.
So meetings help us at least get the word to each other. I hear from Pastor Roz, and I think we talked about it last week, making sure that we're hitting the big rocks. Right? You remember the conversation about big rocks and little rocks? If I talk through 100 little rocks, then we're probably not going to remember any of them. But if we really in a given meeting really address the couple of big rocks, then there's something for those intermediate leaders. I mean, just trying to back brief 100 little rocks is hard, right? But if I'm down briefing 2 big rocks, I can work with that. And so Robert pitched a system. I think that's what we're driving towards. I think that's what we want to drive towards. A system that will be fruitful and productive, that will result in generating new leaders coming up. So they're not feeling frustrated. They're not disconnected. Like, what is going on? Was that the 3rd thing or the 14th thing or the what day is? Figuring out how to communicate that smoothly, I think, starts at the calendar, and then works down from there. At least in my brain, it works down from there.
And who's the leader of what? So you know where to go.
Yeah.
You can go to that leader and get more information.
Well, I think pre-COVID kind of was.
Does everybody know what they're leading?
I think because of COVID, that's
Yeah.
why we kind of went flat tire a little.
Yeah.
And now we gotta get back on track. And yeah, and another thing is to get that calendar out to all of us. Not only leaders but staff members as well. So everybody, because really the only thing sticks out of my mind all the time is Easter and Christmas, to make sure we're prepared, for those seasons, because those are our biggest draws for, salvation for people. So I'm the first one to admit, I'm like, okay, what's coming up next. I'm not sure, you know. So yeah, the calendar.
Easter is in 2 weeks. Are we prepared for that? Well, like 911 responders saying, I use that as an example.
Yeah.
Are they buying meals for the fire station and police station?
I think because of COVID, I think for me, we gotta be fluid
Yeah.
and flexible. I know we're coming back to some kind of normalcy, but I think at the same time, we still need to remain fluid and flexible. But at the same time, having the calendar does help because we don't want to be last minute in doing it. But at the same time, we got to be fluid and just flexible with it. Because I was thinking like Easter, for example, we got the theme, we got, but in terms of what does that look like? Like right now, my most urgent thing is opening up our kids' church. That's my most urgent thing. But at the same time, if we don't know the help, I'm not going to open. Does that make sense? You know, and I reached out to Roz, bless her heart. You know, she asked me a while back, hey, I can help. You know, I can help, and I'm like, great, that would be awesome. And we may not have the people who are qualified. And bless her heart, she said last week, you know, I don't want to hinder the person who's supposed to be there, but at the same time, my heart's like, we ain't got nobody right now. So you are the one. Please don't leave. Stay there. And John sent a thing for us to read, and it was so on point. Talked about chemistry, character, and competency. I don't know if you guys read it or saw it. I'm like, wow, this is on point. Like right now, we got the character, we got the chemistry. Roz is the right person, but competency, her heart was like, I'm not the right person for this. I'm just feeling a void. But at the same time, I'm like, that's what we need right now, is for people with character and chemistry to fill the void. Until God brings the qualified person there, guys, we all we got. I'm not going to wait for the right person to like, hey, I'm here. I don't know you. Who are you? You know what I'm saying? We're not going to have the perfect fit, but we have the people who are willing and saying, hey, listen, I may not be called to kids' church, but I'm willing to step in and help. And if I got to leave for a time, so be it. Until God can bring that person, I'm going to keep my eyes off, and I'm going to pray for that person. And when that person comes, I'm going to mentor that person. You follow me, family? And so we got to be flexible and be willing to just fill the void and lead. Talk about leading, that's leading. Example, being that example. Until that right person comes and you can mentor that person, yeah, God. Amen? Right now, that's my urgency. We like people come back to church. Guess what? We got 3 young ladies with kids. And I feel like God is screaming at us. Will you please open up the kids' church? I got to bring the ambulance. I got to bring the fire truck. What do you need? Yeah, I remember you guys standing up in staff saying, Pastor, we got to open up the church. Guys, I don't know what to say, but hey, the calendar is great. Like John said, the systems are great. We can have the systems. And we do. We do, but COVID has shut us down. Guys, how many meetings we got during a month? One meeting. If you're in staff, you have 1 meeting a month. If you're in pastors, you have 1 meeting a month. If you're in council, you have 1 meeting a month. Come on, guys, really? COVID never shut us down. We still met once a month. It was different, virtual versus in person. Right, guys? We still can go online, look at the calendar. Still go online, look at the minutes. So I'm challenging us. Look at it and ask ourselves, hey, that's why I appreciate, look at Roz, I appreciate your heart. And I know you guys have been struggling with, what can we do? And COVID did this to us, shut us down, but now we're coming back. So now I need us to be like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? We can create other systems in the world, like John's saying, but we need the bodies. Amen? And until that person comes, we're looking at it. You guys follow me? But you get people under you. You know who they are, that you can call up and challenge and say, hey, listen, we'll open up kids' church. You like help with kids' church. Right? They don't have to be qualified. Come on. We're not looking for qualified people. We're just looking for people who are willing and available for now until God brings the qualified people. Amen? So your article is so on point, man. Hey, we got chemistry, we got character. but we just don't have people who are competent or skilled or called to that specific position. Amen? Can you get your hand up?
I think it'd be helpful to have like roles, like clearly defined roles, and like if it's posted, so like in the kids' church, if you put like this is like the person to contact for this, and then these are like the unders, and then like even for like comm team, like if it's in our room, like this is what we do, these are the people, like, and if you have it posted in each room, and then also to have a list of like things to do, so that like when people come and they ask like, oh, I want to help with this, and we can be like, oh, here's this list, this is what you can do, because like having everything online is awesome, but like I think we also have to post it, because like sometimes it's hard to find online, or like I don't even know, like I have so many emails. I have like 5 different emails, and there's probably like 5,000 messages in every single one of them, and like text messages, group chats, like there's so many like different, like there's a lot of things being communicated, but it's like, what do you need me to know, and what do you like, because like this is not anybody's only thing, like this is, everybody has like other things, like how many jobs everybody else works, like families, like that whole exercise of like all of these other things we have going on in our life. So there has to be like something that's like regular, and like even if it's sent through an email, but it's like a screenshot of like a PDF that's like, okay, this week if you need to see this, like go to this place, or what, I don't know, like just something that's like just one thing. Or like even if like we have leaders and groups like in the roles where it's like, hey, I know I just have to check in with my like fourth watch family, and then like that's probably the group text that I like read the most, and it's like always informational. But like if there's just like a picture in there, so that if there's like all kind of talk and stuff, you can look at it, click on it, and see it, instead of reading like the 100 messages or like whatever, you know, that are in the whole long stream thing. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think so. Designing a streamlined community. So if I send you 15 emails during the week,
I'm not reading that.
it's saturation. It's oversaturation. You're not going to get it. If I send you one useful email a week, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, but even
As long as it's not
those
ridiculously long.
those alerts, you know, like I still get those alerts like this with the purple book. So I think when something comes out, I think it's good to alert that we have something new on the calendar.
Yeah.
You know, like we could do that. So
Yeah.
that people alert on their phone goes on, just glance at your calendar. Like the calendar that looks like this, not the calendar that looks like, you know, like
Right.
the kind of month
Absolutely.
calendar or week
Absolutely.
calendar. I think that is easy visual. Oh, what is that on that date? You know.
And conversely, a calendar is only as good as it is accurate, right? So if you're getting an announcement for kind of like the 1,000 emails,
Yeah.
if I'm getting announcements and reminders for crap like that, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening anymore.
Yeah.
Now it's just noise.
Yeah. So we could I like the fact that we do get those alerts, because then we know what, you know, like it'll remind me, oh, this is Purple Book, this reminds me, oh, Kingdom Kids, this reminds me of. I think if we could streamline that, just so we can get an alert and we click on a reminder, even when a new event has hit the calendar, like, so if we discussed it, we automatically hit it on top of the calendar, so it alerts us something new is on. But if we could see it in that form, you know, like click on that form, versus the one we have for our meetings, you know, like this event, like in Minds.
Yeah.
That, yeah. But if we could just say, oh, we look at a calendar, oh, tomorrow got something, what is that? You know, yeah. If we could do something like that, would be great. Because I do get those alerts, and I do know what they are for.
Okay.
But if it comes at a random time, I'll be like, wait, what is this alert for?
So is it so as you're saying alerts on my phone, I have the calendar loaded into my calendar. So I just want to make sure that I want to make sure that I'm understanding exactly what you're talking about. So let me try to find a good example. Okay, I don't have a great example. Post-service chat.
Purple book.
I've got the post-service chat, so it's a whole. So when I click on it, it gives the link location, all of these. Is that what you're talking about?
No, so I guess Google Calendars, they hooked it up to our
calendar.
and so my phone will go off at 12 o'clock for Purple Book.
Got it.
I
Okay.
heard his go off. So if we put a new thing on, just glance at your alert to say new event.
Okay.
You know, so that way we can at least look at, because sometimes people miss meetings, you know.
I think you can push announcements. Okay.
You know, or they go to the bathroom when you're talking about that and say, oh, we discussed it, you know. So that might at least alert people that there is something new
Okay.
on the calendar. I mean, and then I agree, like too, with Uli, a visual thing, like so. So even when we go to do big functions, I always have like a list for me, a list for Luke, and a list for anybody else who comes. Like, so that way when they say, like, can I help somewhere, I can say, oh, this needs to be done. Oh, this needs to be done. I do that. So I always have
Priorities
a list
of
for
work.
me, him, and then everybody else. So yeah, so I think it is a good visual aid in each section to have a, you know.
And I think that was the homework. This past one was the
So the
do your job description, like
Yeah.
for your roles and
Oh, yeah.
responsibilities, like submit what you think your role and responsibility is.
Oh yeah, I would know.
That really was the. So when you mentioned that earlier, that really was the purpose of the last exercise, was to reflect on, well, so what is it that you do then? So for us, we would call it turnover. When we're being replaced, I have a list of things that I'm responsible for at work, and I do a turnover with the person who is replacing me. So then I explain to them on a daily basis I do this, on a weekly basis I do this, on a monthly basis this, on annual basis this, and so then I can sort of systematically go through what